Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 1, day 5 of Devtoberfest 2024. My name is Srinivasan Neelamegam. I'm a developer advocate at SAP, and I will be the host for this session. Today, it is all about frontend. And the topic for today is UI5 Freestyle TypeScript end-to-end development from zero to hero in 1 hour. And with me, I have our guest speaker, Peter Music. Before we begin our session, I want to remind you to join the Devtoberfest group in the SAP community so you can be eligible for the Devtoberfest contest and a grand prize of an all expenses paid trip to a TechEd in-person event next year. And to earn points for this session, there is a validation tutorial in the YouTube description. I would now like to invite our guest speaker, Peter, who is the Chief Development Architect at SAP, to introduce himself and tell us more about this topic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome here, and nice to be here. My name is Peter Music, and I'm the Chief Development Architect for SAP UI5 or SAP UI Technologies. And today I brought a topic with me to show you how you can do TypeScript end-to-end development. And therefore, I create a small step-by-step flow, which we will do and execute here in that together. And later on, you can also replay that. So let me first quickly introduce you to TypeScript. So TypeScript is an extension of JavaScript. It adds typing on top of that. And you see that on the right-hand side. So simple variable declarations are not anonymous variable declarations. You have to or you can also specify the type, like here the number on the right-hand side. And also there is type inference happening, that if a number is used and assigned to a variable, then it's automatically getting that. And that's much more. You can also define own types, and for functions, you can specify the parameters, what you expect. And what all is that about for UI5? We did quite a journey a while back to enable UI5 to also provide TypeScript definitions for all our classes, modules, and so on, so that you can benefit from the advantages of typing and to improve, which finally also helps you to improve your code. And with TypeScript, you also added an additional benefit on top of UI5 by allowing you to write ES6 classes and use ES module imports. We will see that later on when we do the coding. So other benefits are that we get error messages while we code, or code completion, which is also pretty tough to implement if you have JavaScript. But with TypeScript, we have a lot of type definitions, and then we can also provide a proper code completion for that. We have in-place API reference, and we can navigate between modules and so on. And it helps us also to refactor our code easier. It's better from a maintainability perspective at the end. So what we will tackle today and whatnot, I just want to set a little bit the expectations of the session. So today I want to do one thing with you. I want to create a freestyle UI5 TypeScript project or multiple projects, an application and a library from scratch using Easy UI5. I would like to also share a little bit the benefits and show that to you of TypeScript, as I explained that before. And for all that, we will use also a CAP server as an integrated data source. We will see a little bit of OData v4, declarative and imperative code usage. And I have a little bonus with me. I learned that also while preparing for that session, the deferred action binding. The ECMAScript specialities you need to know when implementing with modern JavaScript and UI5. And I would also like to show you how you can integrate third-party packages, a thing which we often may require to not implement everything on our own, and then getting a third-party package which does that. And I would like to show you how you can do that. And we will also do a little bit of control development. We will connect the application library finally and do some testing. Not tackling will be a deep dive into UI5 programming model. For that, you can go to, for example, the UI5 TypeScript walkthrough. The links I will also share later on in this GitHub repository you will get. And then you can also do a real walkthrough, a comprehensive walkthrough through the whole UI5 programming model features. We will also not talk about Fiori elements and Fiori tools because the application we built today, it could be also built for sure with Fiori elements, but then I could not show you all these TypeScript benefits, and therefore I would like to go a little bit more into details on the programming features here. We don't use the SAP Business Application Studio. It for sure works as well in there, but we use simply here in my demo the VS Code. And I don't talk about the UI5 tooling ecosystem so much. So there are other sessions where we highlight that we can also add then a proper link to that, and also how workspace setup in NPM is working. This goes too far in that session. Plus also not talking too much about the CAP server integration using CDS plugin. There are also much more nicer features or deployment scenarios. So it's really that's what we talk on the left-hand side. And with that, I talked a lot. And let's now get started in real coding. Let me switch to my IDE. What I have here is my root directory, which has a step-by-step guide. So this will also be the step-by-step guide you will get when you will later on have access to the repository. I need to upload it after the session, the whole thing. And then you can also play that on your own. Let me just put the preview to the side. So in order to get started, the first thing is, for sure, having a VS Code installed. And then we need to also ensure that the Yeoman generator in EasyUI5 is being installed to be able to use templates. And the CAP CDS SDK should also be available and installed globally on your machine. So I have prepared that already. And the first thing what I need to do is now I want to get a CAP server for the whole scenario, because I have seen that I can use and benefit from this the Bookshop CAP server. It's available here in this GitHub repository, so the official cloud CAP samples. And I already downloaded that. And I put it now here into my project. So otherwise, I have the link to download the zip and just unzip it from there and run npm install inside. And with that, we have then also the CAP server available locally, and we can then do the start. So what I will do now in this session is that we have this view application built in, unfortunately not the UI5, but we want to rebuild parts of that application today together in UI5 TypeScript. And that's the goal. So to get started, what we do now is we create the UI5 application. So the easy thing to do here is to run then now the EasyUI5 generator. And I specify now immediately the TypeScript application as a template I want to use. If I don't specify that, I get a list of available templates, community templates. They are maintained by the UI5 team and the community together. And we take care to update these templates that they fit the latest best practices. So here, this is now downloading the relevant community templates in the back in the beginning to check that they are up to date. And once they have the Yeoman is completed, I can now add and fill out the questions. So as a namespace, we say devtoberfest.app. We choose OpenUI5 as a framework. I want to use the latest framework version. Yeah, that's me. It should be created in a new directory, but I don't want to initialize Git. So now the EasyUI5 generator is scaffolding my project, and we are scaffolding now a TypeScript project. So if you look into this this project itself, you immediately notice, in the project root we have a tsconfig. So this is let me make this a little bit bigger and this one a bit smaller. This tsconfig contains the configuration for TypeScript about which types to use, and here we see there are the OpenUI5 types in the package.json. We see that also as a dependency, and it's already pre-configured for the local project that it works properly. And as a target, we compile in the meantime towards ES23. So this is also a new feature of the UI5 tooling. since UI5 tooling, even 3.0 in the latest patches and 4.0, that we can also make use of ES23, and the modern browsers already support that today. So, and therefore we go also like that. But we have to know that not all of these features are supported for developing UI5 applications, and you may know that classes and modules are not supported for JavaScript development so far, but for TypeScript we enabled that. And when we are looking now into this component TS file, we see here we have now imports, we have now a class which defines the UI component. We see a speciality which is necessary for TypeScript. So every class which should be later on transpiled into UI5 code. So that's what happens behind the scene. We see that also in a second, how that looks like. Then this information is necessary to assign the UI5 module namespace to this class here. And what is also nice now in TypeScript is that you can hover on these functions. You get now really JS docs. So these are the benefits from that. And if you are now working in this controller, you see also, you get now a list of available functions for that, methods. And you can make use of them, and you get also the JS doc available for that. So this is really a very nice benefit now, and this also, I think, helps you easily to get much more easier started, because you don't need to have the API documentation available next to it. You get it more like out of the box while developing, and this is really a great benefit of that. But now let's look a little bit more into this project itself. So in the package JSON, we see a list of scripts here which are available for the project. And the most important one, while we have created that, it's the npm start command. With the npm start command, we start. I need to change the folder to this app for sure. With the npm start command, we now run the development server on top of this project, and this is the welcome page of this template here. And this is now the starting point for the whole development. Yeah, there are also other scripts available, which I don't want to hide now, which are interesting. So there is, for example, the linting to run ESLint, npm run lint. On top of the project, by default, it should be okay, and no errors are reported. But for example, if I now make a mistake, like I write some stupid code somewhere here, let's do it like that. It's then the linting will also detect that. This one it doesn't. Why? That's strange. Okay. This dot x whatever. So now I don't know why it didn't detect that, but now it detected it. Maybe most probably it was not properly saved at that point of time when I run it. Okay, but this helps already to get rid of some basic issues, and also this obviously you don't need to run lint for that, because lint is also running here inside the whole development environment in VS Code. You get also some information on what's going on. And you can also partially use quick fixes, if available, to help you to solve one or the other issue inside. And another important thing I would like to show is testing here in this case. So if I run npm test, it runs lint and the karma test. Yes, still it's karma. So we have not officially set, even though karma is deprecated, that we have an alternative. That's why we also still have the karma configuration in our applications and libraries as a template, because at the end for us it's just the runner of the tests, and it executes the QUnit and OPA tests which are in the application. And now once the test is complete, so I see here this error is a side effect which is strange, which normally doesn't happen if it's running headless. To be followed up, but here you see 3 tests successful and the coverage summary. And this is now one thing I would like to show to you, because by default we have also coverage enabled for all this TypeScript project, and you see the coverage then on on this TypeScript files. So if I enlarge it a little bit and we navigate in the controller and the base controller, we see, oh, in the base controller, we didn't test a lot of functionality. This base controller in the templates, this comes with a lot of convenient functions, which are pretty nice. So navigation from routing and so on. So if we would do now a bigger app development, this would be more helpful. But for our small one today, we won't need that. But you will see that if you would go through the walkthrough how all that works then. Okay. Yeah, linting, testing. We have building finally as the last one, npm run build. And this build now runs a full build of the application and creates the preload for the application for later deployment. So and the preload contains then all the resources from the application. And you see also that there is the transpiled component code. So, and this is also what happens now. If we compare the TypeScript code now, which has the imports are translated in the build to UI5 AMD-like module code, having then our dependencies expressed here in this AMD-like syntax. And the class we see here for the component definition, this is being transpiled into UI5 UI component extend call. So the UI5 class extend syntax to create extensions of different component stuff. Yeah, and then different classes, and then that's more or less what happens then also in this transpiling step. And when running now the dev server again, this all happens behind the scene. So there is no manual build now necessary. You can then directly open the component.js, and this is being loaded, not component.ts, because also the UI5 runtime code would always require and load the JS code here. And then this happens behind the scenes, and that all works so smooth in the UI5 YAML. By default, these TypeScript templates have this transpile middleware and this transpile task included, which do that trick to run Babel behind the scenes to transpile our code with specific plugins which are predefined in that build. Okay. So, but I now told a lot about the project setup. So let's go further and make this a bookshop application. The first thing what we need to do is we need to extend the manifest of this project to include the data source for this service. But at the moment, there is no service running. And connecting it to localhost 4004, which is then the CAP server and needs to run a site. This is not an option. So a very easy option, what many of you do most probably, is using a proxy for that. But there is even a better approach you can use for the CAP server, UI5 middleware CAP. And this middleware CAP, we need to add it as a dev dependency. This ensures now that we can connect the CAP server project with our UI5 tooling or UI5 application project, and the UI5 tooling will take care to integrate that then into the project with this tooling extension. So as I have installed this middleware, I need to also now register that here in the middlewares, in the list of middlewares. And I use then the UI5 middleware cap and add it here on top. And to glue now the cap server to our application for development, I can now install the development, the cap server as a dev dependency. So we need to use the name of the package here. So this is cap hire bookshop. And then I can use this syntax in npm to connect with local projects. That's why I said also we don't talk about workspaces now or something like that. We do that just with very easy npm commands to connect them. And now I say .. so go one level up, and then I know there is the bookshop folder next to me. And with that now, I install in my app a dependency, a dev dependency. We see that in the package JSON to the cap hire bookshop. So, and that's together with the UI5 middleware cap, which is running here as tooling extension, now integrates the cap as a development into the development tooling of the UI5. And what we see here now is that we see also the logs, what the cap server produces. So I have here now the admin, the browse, and the user service available in this with this path. So I can now also click on them or just open them here directly. Let's go to the browse and say $metadata. And then I see the metadata document of the browse service and the same for the user and so on. So this is the starting point. Now I have the cap service available in my UI5 tooling, and I can directly consume it relative to my application. So later on, if you would deploy that, you would split that and you would use the app router to connect these parts. But for that local development, this is now a very easy and convenient way to bring together the cap server and the UI5 tooling. If you do changes in the cap server, it would be also reflected then after restarting the UI5 tooling. Now we need to register the service. As I said, data source. So there is the data sources section, but now I'm a bit lazy because this requires, you see it's in the script, you get also a guide through that. But now I copy that. That's a bit easier now and explain that what we copy. So in the SAP app section, we add the data source to the bookshop. And this bookshop has the following URI. And we know it's an OData v4 service. Now in the model section, I will use the bookshop, this bookshop data source as the default model. So let's go down to the SAP UI5 models section. And here in the model section, we add the data source bookshop. Yeah, we preload it. That's maybe interesting if we deploy it later on, then it works properly. And then in the settings, we say we want to use the auto batch grouping. Should not use the synchronization mode, but the operation mode is the server. And we need later on to do an expand for some selects because we have nested bindings. And therefore, I need the auto expand select here. So let's save that. And in order to consume it now, we need to display a table which binds then this bookshop. And there I have created a small snippet. Let's quickly take a look into that after pasting. So the default view, we have a page and this illustrated message, but the illustrated message we remove now. And I just drop now this lengthy definition. It's the SAP M table. And we connect the SAP M table against the books in the default model. And we have column book, author, general, price, and stock. And in the column list item, we define the cells for that. And here we see also this nested binding, and therefore this configuration was necessary to do this auto expand select. So if I now save that and let's go here, we see, wow, it's already there. So you also see I didn't restart anything. It was just by clicking the tab. That's also a nice feature of these templates that in case of changing something, let's change the name of book to Hello World. And you see I save it and then it's reloading and updating that. And that's also more or less instantly happening. And you can then also have a real nice development experience by having the things side by side and seeing the updates immediately. So now we have the table, but we did not do much TypeScript code so far. And therefore, I would now like to do a little bit more of TypeScript coding by adding a sorting functionality and showcase a little bit how easy it is to use then this together. So in the XML view, I'm now adding for the book column a kind of a sorter icon. And the sorter icon, this is put next to this textbook. And I use the HBox to position that. But I use this, there are some CSS margin or CSS style classes in UI5, which you can use to do some positioning, some small positioning things by using classes. And I'm using that to get a little distance between the icons so that it's not directly putting behind the book. And then in the event here, in the press event for this, I want to call the onBooks sort function. So, and this now brings us back to TypeScript. So in the main controller now, I see there was some old code. We can remove this old code. And by removing the old code, it also checks the imports, interesting wise, for whether they are still needed or not. The same you get when you run the npm lint and so on. But we remove it now. And what we do is we add a new function, the onBooks sort, and this will be a void, and there is already some recommendation in, thanks to Copilot. Let's see what's in. It says this by ID table, so it tries to grab the table, but now I get already a warning, unsafe assignment of type value. So here I need to also ensure that the table is imported, so I can now use control space to do the import, or I use the quick fix and then I select one of these imports. It's a SAP M table. So as by ID is by default returning an UI5 element, we need to give some additional typing. So some may see that as the negative part of TypeScript, others would see that as, this helps to then understand better the code and what is expected. And then we get the table at hand, and with the books table, I get now also some APIs. And let's say I do that now, not this one, books table dot get. We see also then the possible functions here. Get bindings items. This is the items aggregation. And then I can already directly call if I want sort on that one. So this would then a bit shorter to do that. Sort, a new sorter title false. The sorter needs to be imported. And then it could already work a little bit shorter. Error type value. So it's not really, we need to say what it is. Therefore, I prefer when using TypeScript to do it a little bit like that, to separate the lines. It's a bit easier. So we have the items binding at hand and then call sort here. And then this is being implemented. So now we see we can do the sorting, and at the moment it's in one direction. But I did this a little bit further. So by default, we do a sorting of the items in the XML view. I take this short snippet and go to the XML view definition in the table. And here, instead of binding to books, what we do is we bind now we're using the expression binding syntax to the path books, but using also a sorter. Ascending should be true. And then by doing that, when the application starts, it's already sorted ascending. And what I now want to do is in the code to do it a little bit more detailed, the whole thing. I copy that block and explain it quickly. So we now get a reference to the table once the XML view starts, and keep that as a kind of a private member here locally, so that if the onBook sort happens, I will get an event, and I want to react depending on what the icon is, whether it's sort ascending or descending. And therefore, if you have an event, you see that there is a special syntax. So every component you use, like the icon or so, it brings these events with it, and you can use these events to get already a kind of more typed access to that. And it's not only just an event, it's really typed, this event, and we provide it for all the components. And then you can here in this case, or what I do now here, is that I decide based on whether it's ascending or descending, what to do to sort that way. And then finally, the source will be adopted that we do it, that we show the proper icon for that. And by saving that now, we have the sorting implemented, a very easy one. So let's go to the next one to show then a bit more an advanced thing. have a detail. So what I want to do is I want to click on a row and then show the details on that. And also this requires a bit of code besides some declaration in the XML view. In the XML view below the table, we now add a panel component. And quickly showing to you how that looks like, I make it visible. So this is the panel component, and once I want to click such a row, I want to see that title and description is being displayed then in this panel below. And this should then become visible once I click something. So for that, in the columns list item, I need to add a press handler. And this press handler is now my event callback in my controller. And to also make that a bit quick, I copy now the code in there, and also here I need to do the imports. So I can also say quick fix on that and add the import for that. And then I see here, oh, there is something missing, the book details. So let's add that here, private underscore book details. But I know that the book details is a panel. The panel needs to be imported. And then we do the same like for the books table, books details. And the ID of the book details is book details. And here we cast it to the panel, and that's it. So if we would not cast it, it would say, no, we can't assign that. And with that, I have now this context binding. And this happens in that way that if I'm now clicking on this book, this event is being called, this book in this row. And what we do is then we have the list item at hand. And from the list item, we take the binding context and the path from that and use that to bind the elements. So this panel is being bound then to this context of that cell, of that row, and it displays then for sure that content for that. So this brings me then to the next part. I want to also do a little bit of an update scenario, and in this application, so I want to order books so that the stock gets decreased here for that. And when ordering books, there is a nice concept in OData v4 implementation, or you have these action imports, these actions, and you can call them. And I would like to show you how you can use that to implement kind of a login on this CAP server, which is only working for the basic OAuth for sure, but it helps to do that a little bit easier. Let's go into the main manifest, because for the login, we need to have the user service available. Is there... All good. So I saw two chats. Is there something we should answer in the middle, or?
Yes, Peter, there is a question from Marian. His question is, the TS events are not all available in UI5 TypeScript version 1.108 only when I was upgrading to 1.116. What are the downsides if UI5 version is at 1.108 and UI5 TS is higher?
So if the TypeScript definitions are higher, it could see that you see features which are not yet available in older versions, so that you need to be careful on that. But the problem is that we can't downport these improvements we did for the TypeScript definitions to the older versions. Yeah, it also required in many places adoptions in the code, and we did that over the last couple of years till 120 when we have the real good support of TypeScript definitions. We did that step by step, and therefore it can be that in older versions the types are not as good as they are in the later versions. But if you are careful, for sure the new types could be used on top of old releases, but you need to know what features are available and what not.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's...
One more question from Volker. He's asking if you will be showing debugging in VS Code?
I can show debugging of TypeScript, yeah. In VS Code, I need to do a bit more setup for that, but where I can definitely show it is in the browser. So if you debug or want to debug your TypeScript sources here, this is you debug them really in TypeScript in the browser, as you would expect it. So if I now put a breakpoint here in my controller, then the breakpoint already stops here. And if I navigate through that, I can also see then all this information here, and I could work with that. So debugging fully works on TypeScript here in the browser. For sure, you can also do it like that you can connect the IDE and the browser when starting the browser in development mode or in this debugger, JavaScript debugger mode. And then you can also put the breakpoints directly in your code here inside, and then the debugger stops also in here. But yeah, before I try that out now live, I would prefer then if I would show that to test it up front, to not spend too much time.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, but yeah, let's continue here quickly because I have more to say. So the user data source we also added, and then we add a user model, a named model. In here, this named model, we say it should not use batches. Therefore, we say group ID direct. And yeah, because I want to have individual requests going out, and if I call, for example, later on the action import for the login. And in order to implement the logging, I found out a nice usage on that using the action imports, because if you now look into this into the server user $metadata, we see that we have the entity type me. So this is the user me information, so ID, locale, tenant, and so on. And there is an action called login, which can be called. And in order to do some ordering later on, we need to be authenticated. So we can add in the controller code for the component now in the init call this login functionality. And there we can say this get model. So this is, we access the user model. Then we say bind context. And here in the bind context, I can call the login as a deferred action. And this dot in the brackets, this says this is a deferred action. Const o login action equals this get model bind context login. So I have it also implemented completely here below. And then yeah, we need to cast that as, but I copy it quickly. That's a bit easier now. And here we see also we need to fix the imports first. So the OData context binding, make sure to use v4 for that. And then the message box is used, the sub-m message box, to display in case of we fail to log in. So when doing that, and I open my bookshop in a new incognito window, not this one, 8080, then I see a login coming up. And now in this mocked data server, I can have anything, let's say admin, and but now I don't see anything. So I just want to also now display here the user in this Devtoberfest app, and therefore we can use this UI5 expression binding syntax to add some little expression to XML. And this can be put then here on top in the title of the panel. So instead of just displaying the I18N app title, we now also add the user and then use the expression syntax to take from the user model the me ID. So we access the me entity and then the ID. And if there is nothing present, then we display anonymous. So doing that, it refreshes and it says, oh, well, we are logged in as admin. So if I close that once again and show that now, how that happens. So if I now log in, you see anonymous, XYZ, and then I'm logged in. This works because in the implementation here, in the controller, we now say login action invoke, and then we say the model user should refresh. And with that, it loads the fresh data and it updates all the bindings. And with that, we have now a simple login implement on this basic auth, which is available here for this bookshop application. So let's order some book. And in order to order a book, we need an order button here in the details. I go to the main view. And here in the main view, in this VBox, we add the order button. It has a press handler with on book order. We implement that. And now if I click, I have this order here available. This error, this is a side effect. We can ignore that. That has something to do in the server with setting some headers. So, but that's no issue for the runtime here in this case. So now if I copy this book order thing and paste it here, I also need to fix some imports for sure. And you notice here now a little detail. I'm implementing it as an async function here. And I give you also a small hint now why it's here an async function and why I didn't do that for the component. So, but first let's import the types correctly. So what we do now here is to implement the submit order is that we use the same thing. So we have this get model bind context function with a submit order action and this deferred action binding. And here in the action, we also get that as a hint while typing, then we can set parameters. And these parameters allow us to give some information with this action. And we need to pass the book. And the book we take from the context here. So from the button, we know the button is in the panel, so it gets the binding context from the panel around. And here we access the property ID, which is the ID of the selected book. And the name of the property, if you don't know that at hand or don't have that at hand, you can also check that quickly then in the user metadata, not user browse metadata, browse metadata. And here in the books entity, where is it here? I see the ID. Well, that's the list of books, but here in the books, I see the ID is my key. So this is the thing I need to pass then. And when I click, I always want to have the quantity 1 to decrease it. And now here in this case, I use async await. So await the action invoke. And if it finished without an error, then it continues here and I say refresh the default model. And otherwise, it runs in the catch, and then I open the message box and show the error. And having that, I now can order books. We should see it's decreasing, 329, 328, 327, and so on. So this is now working. Yes, one side remark. Here we can use for event handlers the async await. But for lifecycle methods of UI5 controls or components here in this case, like the init here, it's not allowed to use async await because there is that's also documented in the ECMAScript support in the UI5 demo kit. So the link is also in that step by step. It can be that in future there may be a return value necessary, and if this is now async, it returns a promise, and no synchronous return anymore. And therefore, this is kept, reserved to only, and do not use async await here. So this you should know, and therefore in lifecycle functions, use the promise then. If you have an event handler in the main controller, like here, you can also have the async async await function available for that. Okay, so now we have a full functional bookshop. Isn't that nice? And it's not so much code. A lot of things happen declaratively, but we have seen there are a lot of checks happen. So if I make mistakes and so on, this is noticed. If I give wrong types, this is detected and so on. So this is all the benefit what we get then from the UI5 TypeScript support. And now I want to do one more thing. So I want to now showcase how you can also implement libraries and connect these libraries with the application. We have no chart control by default in OpenUI5, so I will implement a chart.js wrapper for that. You have maybe seen that also in some of the other demos already. But this is always a nice thing. And to start now with my library, I use the EasyUI5 generator to create a library project. This takes a little bit. We can also speed that up because I have it also already created next to my application. Let's do that a little bit quicker because you also follow then the questions. And the only thing which is important is then as a namespace that we call that Devtoberfest lib to work with a step-by-step guide. And the rest, besides of Git, we also use the defaults. And then this project is being created like that. So therefore, I'm just jumping in there and run npm install, which is normally executed at the end of the generation of this project. So in the library project, while npm install is running, so Devtoberfest lib, where am I now? Okay, the copy was not finished. As usual, I have the node modules copied with me. But now it should work. So, and this library project is similar like the application. It also comes with a lot of scripts. You have a start to come up with a test page. So if I now start the project, I would see a sample example control being created here inside. And in this example control, you can now see and check how this is being implemented in TypeScript. So here we see also this has imports and it's using classes to define a control. There are some specialities, which is this constructor setting. So this you don't need to write manually. I will show that to you. It will be generated, but you need to copy that manually in the implementation of the control class. And then you define, like for the JavaScript UI5 controls, the metadata options, like the properties and so on. And with that, you get then a control implemented. So the example controller default, there is an error inside. So that could happen because of the import was not, the types weren't created properly. That's also one thing you should know. The first time you have a library project, best is to run the build then of that the types are being created. And then you can also, if you consume it then in the application later on, benefit from the types. The reason for that is that these TypeScript library projects, they have in the types this index DTS information. And this index DTS, this points to a generated file, which references all the related assets here. And with that, you get the code completion support. But yeah, let's do now a little bit step forward to that. We have the library, and I want to integrate a third-party package. Integrating third-party packages in UI5 has to be done with the UI5 tooling modules, or should be done because it's easier than the shimming what is coming by default, and you don't need to add a lot of configuration for that to get that running. And in order to get that in is adding this as a dev dependency, and then we need to configure this project, the UI5 tooling, to use the task when building. So let's drop that here. And the same thing we do for the middleware, that we use the tooling modules middleware, and it's configuration free. So just add it here inside. And that's it. And it's pre-configured and it's available for the runtime. So and the next thing now is that we need to install the dependencies to the third-party package. So it will be just the npm package. You install here chart.js. And if you want to use TypeScript, for sure, we need to also add the types. And when adding types, you need to do also one thing. In the tsconfig of the project, you need to also drop in the types for chart.js. And when Now doing that, I have everything available from a build perspective, so I can start my library project. So if I now would access the chart.js like resources, chart.js, auto.js, so then the UI5 tooling modules is running, and this is now creating a UI5 AMD-like module out of the third-party package. That's also why we can just load it as a simple NPM, as a simple dependency in our UI5 application. And looking into the example TS, if I would now import the chart.js, then I can just write it like that, import chart from chart.js. So this one here. And yeah, more I don't need to do. So I can now also say console log chart. And if I would now show that in the example page, then in the log of this, we can see this dependency. I should also enable the info for that. So here the chart is available and loaded. And yeah, now it can be used at runtime like you see the documentation from chart.js. So this is really the clue on that it's as easy as possible to consume third-party packages. Yeah, I prepared the chart.js implementation. It's also part of that. So, but I want to make it fast for that implementation, and maybe we look into the details quickly. So I copy these parts here. We drop that one and put that here, and then we also take the content for the test page from here. Save a bit of time. Test page, we delete the example. So in the walkthrough, we would replace that and would implement that. So now to start it, I also want to make sure that in future it doesn't load the example HTML. So in the package JSON, we adopt that to chart HTML. So npm start, it should now come up and open the test page for our chart. If I have done everything right, this happens. So, okay. So this is now the chart, very quickly implemented, but let's look into the details a little bit. What happens is, let's see, these gen.dts files, they are generated by the UI5 tooling. And in the demo, I just show it quickly. In the demo script, this constructor code I removed here, this is not available by default. So you don't need to take care to implement that. And also, yeah, the reason for this gen.dts and is that, for example, all these functions or properties and aggregations we define here, they produce or they create. For that, the UI5 managed object is creating methods at runtime, and these methods are not available because they are not implemented somewhere. And with this gen.dts, which is generated behind the scenes as the TypeScript interface generator is running when developing, then it will create these files for your control classes. They will be detected, and then the gen.dts is being created, and it also logs in the generation information when the constructor code is missing. So here in this case, class chart in file blah blah has no constructor code, please add it. So let's go here and plug it in here, and then when it runs again on the next save, it doesn't find the error anymore and everything is fine. And also here we see these gen.dts codes being generated, and we see the get title function is there, the get items function, and so on. And with that, the whole component or control is working properly and can be used in a typed manner. In the library.js, I also did a few adoptions. So here, for sure, we added the control, the chart, and we added the element chart item to that. And I did also one thing. I said this library has no library CSS, so we can also remove the generated themes folder because in chart.js, I don't need themes, and therefore I just drop it. Now this library is only providing the chart control classes for that. And how is such a chart control class implemented? Basically, every control implements, extends the control. It's nothing different than in UI5 and TypeScript. We need to also do this namespace thing. You may remember for the UI5 transpile step to know that this is a UI5 module later on. It needs to be transpiled to UI5 runtime code. And then in there, we configure the renderer at the end. So this is the renderer mapping, and this is also an import. And this renderer is implemented very primitive. So it's an object, export default object, which provides and says that we are using API version 2. At least API version 2. And then in the render function, we can use the DOM patcher API from that. And we create here a div. And inside the div a canvas element, and the canvas element, this is now our anchor for Chart.js. And yeah, I didn't talk about the on-after rendering. This is now how I connect then the real Chart.js implementation with the control, is that in the on-after rendering, we create a new instance of Chart.js. So here we see we get also the type completion for that. This chart, you get then all the infos, and this comes from the type definitions of Chart.js. And here I need to pass it. So if I create it, I see I need to add it to a DOM ref, and this DOM ref needs to be a HTML canvas element. So if it's not like that, then it says, this is no canvas element, it needs to be a canvas element. And therefore, we need to use also typing to do that. And then we configure the chart as it's written in the documentation, using some of the local properties to set the title, for example. And then we implemented also here a special logic that in case of only the first time, the chart instance is being created, but it's kept in a local member. And every follow-up rendering phase, it just updates the data. And that's it. And with that, we see here this charting then being created. And now I want to use this chart in my application. I hope you are still there and you are still motivated. So this is the last part of that which I really want to show. The rest we can also put, or you can follow up in the step-by-step guide. So important if you now want to connect a library and an application is that for testing here in this case with the TypeScript project is that you need to have also a dependency. And for sure, you can also simulate that by bringing paths together. But a very easy way for the local development is now to add a dependency to this library project. And here I specify the devtoberfest.lib. And I take it from the local folder devtoberfest.lib. So it's a similar approach like I did with the bookshop server, but now this is a library. And as it could be just a local dependency like here, this could be for sure also an NPM package dependency, which is released to NPM. So stuff like that works also. At the end, it's for the UI5 here in this case, for the application, just like a dependency. And when I add this dependency, there is one important thing you need to know on that. If you don't add this devtoberfest lib as a type to your tsconfig, the UI5 tooling transpile would ignore that dependency because it doesn't see this as a devtoberfest.lib as a type dependency of the project, and then it's now a TypeScript project, and therefore it simply ignores it. So very often people just forgot that to add in this case this type to that. And if I now start it, I should see in the resource browser, I need to log in A, B, C. And now if I go to the resource browser, I should also see my devtoberfest lib. It's here. So the chart TS is not working. If you want to load it, then call chart.js. So, and this would not work if the type link here is missing. So here now this project, devtoberfest app, it takes care to transpile the code. And that's only relevant for the development time, because then the server of the application is taking care to transpile the code. So now, as we have a third-party package in, and as I said also here, the transpile happens on the application, you also need for the tooling modules middleware now in this application project. And therefore, we need to install that as a dev dependency, tooling modules. And the install is missing. And while this is installing, I'm configuring the UI5 YAML now to use the middleware. We only need the middleware. And again, configuration free, very easy to just add it. Did I do something? Okay. So now we start. And by the way, while I see that, okay, npm install UI5 tooling modules middleware. I don't need to run npm install, npm start. So now we start up the server again. Tooling modules has been found. And then also the chart should work. So I could then also access resources, chart.js auto. This also now takes care that this is being transpiled and available here in this project. So now one thing which is, now let's show that a little bit later. So that you see that as the projects are connected, you can now make changes in the library project, and this will take effect on the main, on the application itself. So this is also connected. So I went a bit further. I created a chart control, Devtoberfest lib, I explained. So now let's make the consumption in the XML view. So for the consumption in the XML view, we go to the main view XML, and we do this XML namespace definition for this DT-lib, which points to the namespace of my Devtoberfest library. And then I can use the chart directly from there. So I plug it at the end after the panel. So, and here in this chart, we say it should display the stock, and it binds to books. And then I use the chart item here inside, which has a text and a value. So if I now run that, localhost 8080 index HTML. I hope it's loading. Oh, yeah, it takes a bit. And now we see the chart is connected here. And if I, let's say, order some of the routering side, that's the responsive style of that. It's also getting updated. We had 11, now we have 10. So also the chart is now connected, and it's updating here with the whole thing. So yeah, if you would now do changes to the chart itself, like displaying a different title with a prefix or so, and I just add that here and I save that. I did that now in the other project. You see it's reloading, and it updates also the chart here. So these are also nice effects by connecting that. And now if you want to bring that together and you build that project, just want to quickly show that part as well. It by default only builds the application project, but you can do also one thing if you want to package the application and this the library in the application, which makes sense in some selected local scenarios. Then you can do that by putting a configuration into the builder, some settings, include dependency, and then we say devtoberfest.lib. And with that, if I now run the build, what happens is that I get a full build of the application, including the library, and the dependencies are necessary for the dependencies of this library project, so it should run quickly. But in the dist folder, what we finally find then is that the library is also part of this dist folder, and it's stored here inside. Let me wait, dist. So we have the resources, Devtoberfest lib folder inside. So there's the chart included, and the third-party content is also available. So the chart.js content is part of this Devtoberfest library, and it's being completely included. And you can now also use the tooling to validate the dist output. npm run start dist. And here now the server is not running for sure because server is not in. But we can do that also by adding here in the custom middleware. Not the library project here. This is the application project. We have the custom middleware, the cap. And in this project, we need to also add this server configuration. And when doing that, the application will also come up now with a build output, with a component preload, with the preload, with a pre-built application, a chart application, and so on. So it's now fully built. So that's most of the walkthrough things. So what I didn't show so far in detail is about testing. And maybe we make that quickly and I add that because it's now really 5 minutes after. I add that to the step-by-step guide so that you can follow up on that. For the application projects, for example, we have different kind of tests inside. So we have the QUnit tests, the functional tests inside. And for the QUnit test, you see also that they are using this ES syntax. So you import, for example, here in this case, the controller. And then in the QUnit module, you define the QUnit module, you define the test. And here we validate that. Here in this case, maybe we validate that's a function. Maybe just to quickly show that, you can run Karma in this case to run continuously. Like it's a bit like the test-driven development to have Karma, the Karma starting the browser and keeping it active and listening in case of changes, so that you can step by step work on fixing the issues. So let's check. So there will be now the QUnit test running and the integration test running. So the say hello is not working. So maybe in the test suite, we just remove that. So by default, the Karma runner is using test suite QUnit HTML, which is opening the test suite QUnit.js. And here the test suites are defined. So if I disable now the integration tests for the time being, then it only run my QUnit test. And this QUnit test, this uses this unit test QUnit TS. So this is the test suite of that. And here in the test suite, it's also using this syntax of promise all and importing. So if you have multiple tests, you can add multiple tests here to this array. And here at the end, we make sure that only if all the tests are being loaded, then the QUnit start is executed and this QUnit config auto start is being delayed. And here, this syntax of this SAP UI require ensures that this test suite can be integrated here directly into the page and loaded as a script. And then this Karma test runner starts to execute this properly in the right order. No, we have no side effects by race conditions. And here in this make unit, this is then going into this test suite I showed you at the end. And now let's fix that. So we know that there is no say hello method, but in that we have the on, and we get now also type support. We have the on book order, for example. So that's a very primitive test. And now the test goes back in green. And it's the same thing if it goes to OPA testing. We see the same kind of test suites for OPA tests, where you can add multiple tests to that. And then in the journey, this needs to be adopted now to properly do a test, which works now with the adopted UI that was built mainly for this illustrated message. I don't go so far now in detail on that, so I can also link later on an example, a tutorial to that, which explains how this works in detail. The walkthrough does that. And there is also one last thing. So it's we saw functional tests, we saw integration tests. There is also the system tests, and that's UI5, which is being used for that. In this setup, you need to first start the development server for that. And then you can run the VDI5 on top of that. So this is using then, I need to switch to the folder for the app again. You can run then VDI5 using WebDriver IO, and this is then testing, doing a system test for your application. So let's see, it starts. And at the moment, there is only the initial test inside. And this initial test, does a very primitive hello world logger. But this test is being skipped. And when you want to start then writing tests, then this needs to be enabled. You need to adopt this initial scaffolded content. This we could also improve for sure. And with that, you can run then also VDI5 system tests with the whole thing. And with that, I went quite through a complete journey. The source code will be available soon. You can bookmark this link to the GitHub repository. I complete today over the afternoon then the step-by-step guide so that you can really follow that completely on Scratch. You can watch and start this repository to get some updates on that. There are also some links around learnings and materials. I'm quite sure this has been already shared in the chat. TypeScript central endpoint for UI5 and TypeScript. You should know this GitHub IO UI5 TypeScript project, the Hello World, the tutorial, and the walkthrough, which is around. The walkthrough is pretty comprehensive. You learn a lot of things. And a colleague of mine, Andreas Kunz, made a nice YouTube video guiding you to the walkthrough. This is really also very interesting to look into. And with that, I'm done with my presentation, and I hope even if it took 12 minutes longer than I expected, you feel still energized and got a lot of insights and learnings from using TypeScript and UI5 end to end and benefit from that.
It was a very interesting session, Peter, and you kept me engaged for 1 hour. I'm happy that you are here and did this session for us. I have shared the repo link in the chat, and I will also add it as a YouTube description. And for the participants, to earn points for the session, you might have to complete the validation tutorial, which is already present in the YouTube description. And we'll also be sharing the presentation which Peter was showing. It will also be added to the YouTube description. And I hope you all have a great day, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.